Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is HD Starcraft and I am back for Game 5, the final game of the Grand Finals of DreamHack Summer. What a pleasure it has been to cast this set for you guys, and as always I'll be casting more sets from this tournament as well as whatever highlight replays that I have in my email box or whatever I can find. If you guys want to send me some sick replays, feel free to send it in to HDreplays@gmail.com. Anyways, let's get right into this game here. Jaedong is the red Zerg player in the top left-hand corner of Belshir Vestige, and in the bottom right-hand corner we have MYI Stardust, the blue Protoss player. This series has been quite electrifying so far. Unfortunately, we haven't seen any macro games yet. I'm kind of crossing my fingers and hoping for this one to be it, but when you watch Stardust play, you know, it's very hard to go into a macro game when you're playing against a Protoss that either wants to win the game right away, or if he doesn't win, he loses. So it's kind of hard to get into a macro game when you're in that situation. So, you know, it's tough. But we haven't, it's not like we haven't seen any great games. Game 3, I think, so far was the most electrifying game of this set. If you guys watch one game so far, if you only guys watch one game of this set, make sure to check that one out. Very close, and we'll see what happens here in Game 5. I think Jaedong now has a pretty good handle, a pretty good grasp on the way Stardust approaches Protoss versus Zerg, kind of just bananas crazy. And I think Jaedong here will be able to apply all that information that he's gathered through 4 games with Stardust and maybe whatever games he's watched on the big screen, in order to formulate a strategy, a winning strategy here against Stardust. Now, Belshir Vestige, I think it's a decent map. I don't think it's as hard as Neoplanet S, but I think it is still somewhat difficult for Zerg. So we'll see what happens here. Although last game, you know, Jaedong just held off that 2-base all-in, even though it was on Neoplanet S and it was at third hatchery, which is very hard for Zerg to hold off. You know, if there's a map for Stardust to go for an all-in on 2 bases, that is the map to do it on. And Jaedong held it off. He held it off impeccably. So, you know, really close, but he held it off. And we'll see what happens in Game 5. This, you know, anything goes, anything goes. And Jaedong and Stardust both know that. One Overlord flying immediately into Protoss airspace. And, of course, Protoss don't have the option of getting air units early on, so Protoss airspace is non-existent, at least at this point in the game. And Jaedong is going to be pretty happy to just float around and use his Overlord to find out exactly what's going on. We do have a Photon Cannon coming up and a gateway at the front door. A lot of trickiness, a lot of aggression so far from both of these players, I must say. And you know, we've had some building cancellation. Jaedong even canceling a hatchery in one of his games. I don't think Stardust has really done any building cancels on his own accord yet, but nevertheless, you never know what to expect when you have these two players going against each other for the grand finals of DreamHack Summer. Anyways, we do have a drone going over to the top right-hand side. It looks like it wants to become a hatchery. Jaedong will be going for that 3rd expansion. And in the meantime, we do have a Zergling coming down here chasing this probe. And the Zergling now making its way over to the front door, where Stardust is going to be researching warp gate technology. I'm really keeping my eye out here in the top right-hand corner. I want to see if Jaedong goes for this 3rd hatchery or not. I'm assuming he will. Once he gets enough minerals, and he has enough now, 340. I'm not sure what he's waiting for. A little bit of skirmish going on in the middle of the map as Zerglings and probes are kind of just combating each other, or more likely the probe is trying to stay alive and not die to the Zerglings. And Jaedong, is he going to go for a hatchery? Yes, he will. So we will not be seeing some type of crazy Roach Warren, you know, crazy Roach attack on 2 bases. There will be a 3rd hatchery on the way, although I will say that Jaedong this game is going for gas. Now, he stopped mining gas, so he went for Zergling speed, and then he stopped the gas production. He is going to try to go for early Zergling speed. He wants map control on Belshir Vestige. And I guess, you know, it does hurt his economy a little bit if he wants to play macro, but at the very least, he will have early Zergling speed in case Stardust decides to go for some crazy stuff. And we actually do have 4 gateways now coming up in the back of the main base. and Jaedong needs to find that out. He doesn't have any Overlord nearby. It looks like he lost his Overlord wherever it was. He's going to try to flood on through with all these Zerglings. He's going to try to take out the Cybernetics core, and with all these Zerglings, he could actually do it, but a Sentry has come out. Sentry could save the Cybernetics core by throwing a Force Field down, but no, the core goes down. Absolutely crippling blow here for Stardust. The Forge could also go down as well, and that is one of the main things that allows Stardust to win games against Zerg, is he uses his Forge in his early upgrade to stay ahead of the curve, but he's going to lose that Forge as well. Jaedong with the ground attack with just Zerglings. You know, I thought he was going for only early Zergling speed so he could have a little bit of map control against Protoss, but ends up going for a massive ground attack with a bunch of Zerglings. Now the thing is, did he do enough damage? I mean, he lost a lot of Zerglings there. 40 Zerglings went down. He lost 1,000 in resources, but he delayed the Cybernetics core, he delayed the Forge, and in result delaying +1 weapons and, you know, +2 weapons and +1 armor. So was it worth it? And I think it's pretty close. At the very least, he basically puts a big stopgap in Stardust's strategy to go for this, you know, this 5-gate attack. We could see that Stardust was planning to go for another massive gateway attack here on 2 bases, but now without Warp Gate, I mean, basically Stardust has hit a huge speed bump, and he will not be able to attack on the ground here. So I do think that was a victory for Jaedong, you know, killing off the core, killing off the Forge, basically just buying himself time so he doesn't have to deal with all those gateway units. And now he could just sit back and hopefully his game sense, his timing is on par so that he will be able to get enough units out on time to deal with the Warp Gate technology once it finishes up. And we can see Warp Gate now is being researched at the Cybernetics core. We do have a Forge researching new +1 weapons here. Everything really delayed here for Stardust, but he still has all of his gateways back at home, fully functioning. He still has all of his probes alive. He didn't lose, I don't think he lost a single probe in that engagement. And so while, you know, Stardust is delayed here, he still has the ability to do a ton of damage with his gateways, and he's going to add on 2 more as well. So we are going to see a 9-gate all-in from Stardust, and Jaedong did not see the gateways. He has no idea that that is indeed what is coming for him. All he knows is he killed off a Cybernetics core and a Forge, and he hasn't seen any activity at all from Stardust whatsoever. So can Jaedong from that deduce that in fact Stardust was going for an all-in? I'm not sure. He does see a little bit here with this Overlord, but I don't think it's enough to know exactly what's going on. There are some Zealots and Sentries coming out here, but this isn't an unusual number of Zealots and Sentries. Jaedong needs to send an Overlord in there, or an Overseer, something, in order to find out what's going on, because right now he really has no clue. He's teching up +1/+1. I do like how he's getting an early +1/+1 this game, because he knows that the reason why he's lost to these gateway units is because he's been at an upgrade disadvantage time and time again. So he is going for a +1/+1. Now he sees the pylon coming out, so I think Jaedong now knows, alright, the gig is up, I know what you're going for. A lot of Zealots and Stalkers, Zealots and Sentries coming out here, proxy pylons being erected as well. Jaedong will need to bring all of his forces back home. He'll need Spine Crawlers to help defend. Roaches wouldn't be a bad idea either, although I don't know if Jaedong has a Roach Warren. I think he's just going to try to rely on Zerglings here. Will it be enough for Jaedong, though? A lot of Sentries here with Force Fields, and Force Fields kind of own Zerglings, although some Zerglings are coming around the backside, and I like what Jaedong did here. He sent some Zerglings around the back, and he picked off all the proxy pylons. There are no proxy pylons here. The nearest one is in the main base, so a very nice job by Jaedong, although more pylons are coming up over here in this very well-protected area. Wow, that's a clever spot to put pylons down, and in fact, Jaedong tried a Creep Tumor to block it off with creep, but unfortunately the pylons came down before the creep tumor could creep could extend in time, and now Stardust is pushing into the Zerg territory. Jaedong will need a lot of Spine Crawlers and Zerglings to help defend here. He's gonna bring his Zerglings around the back, try to take out these pylons. He should focus on the pylons, but I think it's just such a narrow spot. Very hard to send your Zerglings in because one pylon is actually protecting the one in the back. So Stardust here, really clever play, and Jaedong, I think, is in some trouble. I don't believe it, but Stardust with the delayed 9-gate all-in could just end the game. Jaedong is in so much trouble right now. He's trying to take out these 2 pylons in the back as they continue to warp in additional reinforcements, and now, yeah, Jaedong is just sending everything he's got. He just finished +1/+1, so upgrades are now in Jaedong's side. It no longer takes 2 shots for Zealots to kill off a Zergling. It once again takes 3, and the Zerglings now are much better with their upgrades. 2 now on the way for Jaedong as well. He He wants to try to keep the upgrade advantage. He's trying to use spine crawlers to stay alive as well. A lot of Zerglings getting force fielded in here, and that's not what Jaedong wanted to happen. And a lot of Zerglings getting caught out of position. Oh man, this is such a precarious spot for the Zerg player. Stardust is just moments away, I think, from procuring victory here in Game 5, the grand finals of DreamHack Summer. And I don't know what Jaedong can do at this point. He's just relying purely on Zerglings, and it just kind of sucks that he never went for a Roachhorn. A Roachhorn would help so much against these Zealots. But the one thing he does have going for him, he does have at least even upgrades with the Protoss army. So he's not at an upgrade disadvantage, but he is at a serious supply disadvantage. 93 supply to 124. And I just don't know what he can do. He is going to send all these Zerglings in right now, but there's just so many sentries and zealots there. It's a really tough spot for Jaedong to be at, and it's hard for him to really tech up to Hydras. It's hard for him to tech up to anything else because he just needs to continue producing Zerglings and spine crawlers. Otherwise, he could just straight up lose the game when this Protoss army pushes in, and I think Jaedong knows that. It's almost like he's stuck between a very hard rock and a very narrow spot, and I just don't know what he can do. He is going to send some Zerglings down to try to counterattack into the Protoss base, and actually he might be able to pick off this Nexus, which would be quite clever. He does have an Overlord there, so he's going to send his Zerglings in to take out that Nexus. Very nice job from Jaedong. Every little bit does help. In fact, this will force a couple of Warp Gate cycles to be used back at home rather than on the offensive, so this works out pretty well for Jaedong. Meanwhile, oh, these force fields are just crippling these Zerglings. Jaedong trying to get up to Infestation Pit. If he can get Infestors out, that would help so much. Meanwhile, these Zerglings able to not really able to take out this Nexus, so a third Nexus is on the way for the Protoss player. More Zerglings being sent down there, though. Jaedong now really walking a thin line because he basically just sent almost his entire army to taking out this Nexus, but he doesn't really have a choice. Either he kills off this Nexus, or he's going to be dealing with the 3-base Protoss, and that is not a winnable situation. We do have a Templar Archives coming up for Stardust, so we might just see some Templar here. Swarm Hosts are on the way for Jaedong, so he's not going for Infestors, he's going for Swarm Hosts, but this could be it for Jaedong. The entire Protoss army is pushing in here. Jaedong able to kill off the Nexus in the bottom left-hand side, but Stardust just says, oh, your Zerglings are down there? Then I'll just come over here and kill off this hatchery, and there is not much that Jaedong can do about this. I think hatchery is going to go down. The aggression from Stardust too much for Jaedong to handle, and yeah, the hatchery is going to die. Force fields coming down to keep this Protoss army alive. So many force fields. Oh my god. It's almost impassable terrain here for Jaedong. And he does have some Swarm Hosts. In fact, there are no observers here. If he can get enough Swarm Hosts underground, he might be able to, I don't know, theoretically hold off this attack, but there is an observer on the way on that production tab. And Jaedong, GG's, Stardust is victorious. Oh, sick aggression from Stardust. And, wow, that is pretty crazy. So Stardust is victorious. Jaedong never able to sniff out the fact that there was a bunch of gateways back here. If he had, I think he would have gotten a Roach Warren, gotten more spine crawlers earlier on. Unfortunately, he just wasn't prepared for it. And Jaedong once again gets second place in DreamHack. So sad for him, but Stardust, you know, up and coming rising Protoss player, really aggressive PvZ style. I'd love to see some of his PvT games, so maybe on PvP as well. So maybe I'll dig up some of those games for you guys in the replays that I have. But I hope you guys enjoyed. And for now, this is HD, and I am signing out.